What's up, everybody? It's Make It Make Sense. I have my buddy Simone here. She is a practicing attorney. She actually teaches attorneys how to be attorneys. And we're going to be breaking down some things. Simone has a channel, which is
It's called Girl. Is that legal? On YouTube.
okay. So, like the videos, the intro plays because we got a lot to get into, and we do not have a lot of time. We do not have a lot of time for sure.
Could somebody please make it make sense?
Make it make sense to me intellectually.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense. Made sense.
Make it make sense. You knew it was up.
Big moves.
Surfer.
Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you say. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dreams. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you say. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dreams. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense.
The dogs call. For many days I didn't bring him here because I suffer when he bites me. He bite me in my vagina. When I'm walking and he sees other dog, he right away, he jump on my vagina because he gets so crazy. He doesn't know who I am. He forgets everything.
Look at me. What did I say? No. Come here. Look at me. Hey. Look at me. No.
Okay, so we're gonna get right into it because we don't have Simone for very long. It started when I saw this guy. This was a letter from Tyrone. It says, this firm represents Rodney Jones in the above referenced case. This letter is to update the court on the status of service of the summons and complaint of defendant Sean Combs, blah, 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 blah. They requested time to file an answer and or move regarding the plaintiff's Second Amendment complaint. The plaintiff consented to an extension and will provide the stipulation to the court. All that sounds normal. Counsel for Combs defendants informed me that he is only representing the Combs defendant and not defendant Christina Coram or Cuba Gooding Jr., according to the affidavit from the process server. Now, this is where I feel like Tyrone is a bit, I didn't want to say sassy, but like I feel like Tyrone is speaking to us, the public, not the judge, when he says things like this. But he says, fortunately, defendant Cuba Gooding Jr., actually, for those of you who don't know Cuba Gooding Jr., unfortunately for Cuba Gooding Jr. has dodged the process server who has attempted to serve him in New York and Florida. He is aware of this lawsuit as evidenced by an interview he did on the Patrick Bet David podcast titled Cuba Gooding Jr. Diddy Assault Allegations and the Dark Side of Hollywood. Cuba is jumping ship, Simone.
He don't want no parts of this foolishness. He got enough problems because he has actual real criminal problems.
So why is he doing interviews about a lawsuit that he's avoiding?
Oh, why is Cuba doing it? Because Cuba's issue is Cuba needs money right now. He can't get booked right now. So he is trying to do damage control with respect to his image and all of those things. So somebody will hire him so he can get some money so he can pay these lawyers. So he is very much trying to distance himself. Because right now, if you're associated with any form of assault, you ain't working in that city.
He can work at a club. He's there all the time.
He should strip. Yeah, he should strip. He could do OnlyFans, make cameos. Cuba, absolutely. There's a demographic for that. Older, rich, Caucasian ladies, homebound, wheelchair bound, perhaps. I think they'd love him. You got to make it some way.
I mean, Lil Rod was not interested
at all. He has too much energy. That's why I'm saying he needs somebody that's homebound, perhaps wheelchair bound, right? Because he could radio around all around them, hop up and down and do all that extraness. And then they're going to be excited. That's going to be their entertainment for the day before they have to take their night meds. Because Cuba is just doing too much for regular people.
You think KFC would hire him?
No, but Popeyes might.
Popeyes is not hiring Cuba.
You don't think so?
No.
See, because Popeyes checks and jives to us, so I'm not really sure. But
I don't think Cuba skews to a black audience. I think he could do.
Agreed. You know what? Agreed. That's why I said he needs an old, fat, homebound white woman.
Oh my God! Don't say that. Oh Jesus! He does. I do think that he is more prone to dating Caucasian women.
That's
But
his preference. I'm
okay,
just giving him what he wants.
maybe he could get like a Hellman's like sponsorship.
I'm thinking more like Boost Mobile, Cricket, perhaps something where people need a payment plan. That's more of where he's at the moment.
Okay, well, off that. No, this is where it gets kind of dicey for Little Rod, and this is why I called not only Simone, but I called a judge that I know, and I was like, "What does this actually mean?" Because how I interpret it, it's not looking good for Little Rod, and both the judge and Simone agreed in different places. So it says declaration of Donald Zacharin. I'm a member of Prior Cashman LLP, attorneys for Solution Grange, Motown Records, and UMG Recordings, incorrectly named in the second amended complaint as Universal Music Group. I have personal knowledge of the facts set forth in this declaration and if called, can be sworn as a witness. On behalf of Solution Grange, Motown Records, and UMG Recordings, as we have repeatedly said from our very first communication with counsel for the plaintiff on March 4th, 2024, now they're talking about Tyrone Blackburn, y'all. We have gone through multiple, on this channel, we've gone through multiple communications between Tyrone, the judge, and Lucian's attorneys. They say there was no basis, not legal and factual, for the claims and accusations that were alleged in the original complaint, the first amended complaint, and the second amended complaint. The UMG defendant should never have been named in any of these complaints, and we should never have been required to make motions to dismiss the complaints in this action. Because plaintiff and his counsel now belatedly have admitted that there is no basis for the claims and allegations they made against our clients, we therefore consent to agree that plaintiff's motion to dismiss with prejudice the second amended complaint as against all of UMG defendants should be granted, and that the second amended complaint should be amended or deemed amended to strike every reference to Sir Lucian Grange, Motown Records, and Universal Music Group. I said from the very beginning, and I'm not even an attorney, that I was a little nervous because it felt like they were throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, under the bus. But I felt like it was trying the case in the media. What do you think?
Absolutely. And I think it's really going to backfire for him. And here's why. This is a federal case. And we have to remember, federal cases, in the way that you try a federal case, is distinctly different from state court. The reason being is state court judges are elected, right? So state court judges actually like to appeal to the masses, to the people. So if you're going to write a complaint, as he has, with a bunch of razzle dazzle in it, that state court judge is probably going to get a lot of calls from the media and things like that to make a statement. Whereas in federal court, those judges have lifetime appointments. They don't care about what you think. They don't have to worry about re-election. They don't have to worry about appeasing people on any specific case. And that's why federal judges are appointed for a lifetime. But as a result, they are sticklers with procedure, and they cannot stand when attorneys try a case in the public media. So that's also, as an example, why in the Donald Trump case that's in the federal court, those cases, they almost always have a gag order. The gag orders are traditionally in place in federal cases, and I'm surprised it's not been done here yet, but they're frequently done so that those judges can stick to the rules and the procedure and don't have to worry about the razzle-dazzle we see here.
Lynn has a quick question. She said, aren't you supposed to include all and remove as required? Isn't it harder to add people?
There is a time period you can add up to. There's a long time period, and that the reason for that, like, it can be 6 months after, it can be 9 months after you filed the petition. And the reason why is because a lot of time during the phase that's called discovery, and it doesn't look like they've really gotten into and started discovery yet. But during the discovery phase is when you start doing depositions and things like that. And that's where you may find that there are other people that need to be added. So you can add anyone basically up to every court is different, but up to the time window, that's the cutoff. And then even after that, you can always ask the judge for what's called leave of court to add somebody.
Let's get into this because we don't have Simone for a long amount of time. It says, please take notice that upon the supporting declaration of Tyrone A. Blackburn dated March 13, 2024, and all prior proceedings hereto had all papers filed herein, plaintiff Rodney Jones will move this court at a date and time to be determined by the court for an order pursuant to rules 15, 21, and 41 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, dismissing all claims and striking all allegations made against Lucian Charles Grange, Motown Records, UMG Recordings, incorrectly named as Universal Music Group, in the second amended complaint with prejudice, and removing Lucian Grange, Motown, UMG from the caption of this action. That's why I started calling people, because I was like, this is what I have been telling you guys I was afraid of.
Yeah.
And I'm not even an attorney, but I could kind of see the writing on the wall. As an attorney, can you break down?
Yes. So basically what he did, and is in part what you're supposed to do, which is you want to add initially all parties that you think could be financially responsible for your client's injuries. Now, beforehand, what I do beforehand, and you want to do that because you want to make sure you don't miss what's called the statute of limitations, which is the cutoff to sue anybody. Now, sometimes what I will do, if it's a big company like that, I will ask them off the record. I'll say, hey, will you sign an agreement to waive the statute of limitations, basically to give it 6 more months if it looks like we're coming up on it, so that I can investigate to determine whether or not you should be added in the first place. Corporations really like that because at the end of the day, once they're sued, then it all, the clock starts and the money starts, calculating.
Accruing.
Here, though, basically what it looks like is that Tyrone Blackburn sued everybody without doing what probably would have been potentially proper due diligence to really see how do these different entities work together and how were they liable for my client's injuries. And here it appears that what's happened now is he's done more investigation. He's looked over some documents, and then he's come to an agreement with UMG that he's going to dismiss them. But what we don't know is this an agreement in exchange for them not suing him to get their attorney's fees paid back? Because more than likely, they're going to want those attorney's fees because they probably have incurred $70,000 to $100,000 in lawyers' fees already for UMG, Motown, and Lucius.
Well, that's kind of why I reached out to Simone and the judge. Once I saw this, and I saw with prejudice, meaning it wasn't just a jurisdictional issue, it was exactly what they have been fighting about. Tyrone and Lucian's attorneys have been duking it out, and we have had a good time laughing at it, but at the end of the day, it's not funny. I do believe Little Rod. Now, when we got into things about Lucian going into a bedroom with Diddy, and then we're finding out that may or may not have occurred, I worry for his case, because once it's tried in the public opinion, you can't take certain things back.
Correct.
And we already know that people had requested sanctions for Tyrone for not doing what is normal due diligence.
Correct.
In these cases. So that's on a whole separate case, unrelated to the Diddy stuff. Then we hear all this really kind of crazy stuff. There's a new lady who has come forward who was a dancer, and she's alleging that Tyrone is going to take her case as well, but she's already done an interview with Tasha K.
Yeah, he may want to step away from that one for a moment and focus on these, because the judge, and I don't know if it was this judge or a judge on one of the other cases that Blackburn is in front of, that judge already recommended and referred him to the disciplinary council for them to simply look into the salaciousness of the way that he drafts his complaints. Because that judge's concern is that he is just adding anybody and everybody to these lawsuits to embarrass them and, in effect, extort them into cutting him a check and getting dismissed from the lawsuit. So here, and someone in your comments had mentioned, but they haven't even had a chance to start discovery. That is such a great point, because here's what that means. That means that Motown, UMG, and Lucian have submitted some documents or some proof to Tyrone Blackburn that makes him feel that whatever he initially alleged cannot be proven. So they've done that on their own, and he has reviewed and looked at that evidence on his own to say, we need to go ahead and let them out. And this is probably to minimize the risk that he will have to deal with a sanctions motion and potentially have to pay them for attorney's fees. Because a lot of people think it's only the plaintiff, that it only would be little Rod who could be sued for sanctions. Oh, no. When I do it, I like to sue both the plaintiff and their lawyer, because the lawyer, if it's a decent lawyer, that lawyer is going to have malpractice insurance. And that malpractice insurance will kick in to pay any sanctions of those attorney's fees back to whoever wins the motion.
So, and you were explaining to me earlier that as of once it's signed, they have 30 days to request that.
Basically, yes. So once they're dismissed from the case, for jurisdictional reasons, you have about 30 days to file a motion if you're going to do sanctions. Now, I would hope that the agreement, there's usually a written agreement that won't be filed with the court necessarily, but a written agreement between Mr. Blackburn and the dismissed defendants. And that written agreement should say, we're all agreeing everybody's going to handle their own attorney's fees. But if it does not, then absolutely all those people who just got dismissed can come right back to this court and ask for their fees. And a judge will likely grant it, because it's very hard to win them to win a motion to dismiss. And here they have an agreed dismissal. So that says that even the plaintiff's lawyer himself has now discovered that his initial accusations cannot be proven. And given that we haven't even gone into discovery, it makes one think that whatever would have been needed to know that these aren't false accusations, that information could have been easily obtained, or that he may have had access to it all along, but perhaps had not reviewed that information or didn't trust it for some reason.
When they were going back and forth, Tyrone basically said that a lot of his information came from firsthand accounts from his client, and the other information would be maybe an obscure press release that said, we're in a joint venture. But is that enough to hold up?
I think for things such as the joint venture, right, where you're including corporate entities for the purpose of basically outlining how the money flows so that you can make sure the people that are financially responsible for the damages are included, it's less of an issue. It's okay to include something like that. To say that you've relied on press releases and things like that, because that's really the only way that you're going to find out that type of thing. But the issue is when you've got salacious accusations like the ones against Lucian himself, right? Where those accusations were really put in there to humiliate him, to embarrass him, and potentially extort. That's when you have a bigger issue. And that's because with corporations,
Simone, for people who don't know, those accusations were that Lucian was bankrolling Diddy's lifestyle, specifically the sex trafficking and the drugs and guns. Right. Those are the accusations that we're talking about for those people who don't know. Which Lucian, I didn't know who Lucian was until this popped off, even though he's knighted in his country. Not something that I knew. Could Lucian be Diddy's sugar daddy? I don't know. But I do know that now that this is dismissed in the court of law, that's probably going to reverberate to all of the other cases where he is named, even in situations where there was no Diddy affiliation officially with Lucian's company at that point.
And also, just to be clear, even if he was Diddy's sugar daddy and giving Diddy money to do sex parties and all of those things, that does not make him civilly responsible. It doesn't make him necessarily responsible for criminal acts that are taking place with the use of that money. That's just not how it works in civil court. That might be something that may be part of conspiracy, etc. on the other side. But if I'm your sugar daddy, just like if I had a sugar daddy and he gives me money and I use that money to buy drugs and he knows I'm a drug addict, that doesn't make him a drug dealer. You see what I'm saying? So I think a component of the dismissal is that when you really look at the accusations against Lucian, even if they are true, it very likely would not give rise to a civil complaint where he could recover for these particular claims.
Now, this is where the judge and Simone did not agree. The judge that I spoke to felt like it would not make any sense for UMG to come after Little Rod and or Tyrone, but because Lucian could argue that he wasn't technically really a public figure, and now everything involved in his new celebrity is about Diddy and sex trafficking, that they could potentially sue.
For defamation, correct?
Correct.
All right. So I have handled multiple defamation cases, and this is why I disagree with most attorneys who say they can sue for defamation. And here's why. Many attorneys who don't practice in this area, who are excellent attorneys, may not know there is this very narrow, nuanced exception for defamation. It is called defamation immunity. How it works is this. If someone is suing you for something, you cannot countersue for defamation just because you're saying they're lying. And that is because there is an immunity for court pleadings. And the immunity for court pleadings simply means if the defamation only occurred, let me say it again. If the defamation only occurred by virtue of them filing this lawsuit against you, even if it's a lie, you cannot recover and win on defamation. The reason for that is if that was the case, all rich companies would countersue poor people by saying, defamation, I didn't do it, defamation, paper you with this defamation lawsuit, and basically limit access to the court. So the only way someone could countersue for defamation would be if outside of filing this lawsuit, someone were to let's say, go on the news and make other statements accusing you of this. It could be of the same things that they're accusing you of this in this lawsuit, but it has to be statements made outside of the lawsuit, outside of the four corners of the paper. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
What they could sue for is they could sue for malicious prosecution, but that would be on the criminal side, meaning you went to the cops, you lied on me. You can do that by filing malicious prosecution. You just cannot use defamation, because defamation protects. Because let's say if someone said you assaulted me, right? I'm suing you because you assaulted me. That person cannot win a defamation counterclaim. They could file it, but they won't win it because as the plaintiff's attorney, I'd say, oh no, there's an immunity for court pleadings. They're just suing me for filing a lawsuit against them, right? And in that case, the only thing they could say is malicious prosecution or something, but they cannot use any court pleading as a defamation.
And again, that's why I reach out to Simone. No, I mean, Simone tells me this all the time. We've gone through this multiple times, but I like to give you guys both sides of the coin. This particular judge says that she does think that potentially Lucian himself could sue, and she could sue civilly after Little Rod wins his case against Diddy. So imagine Little Rod actually winning. Like, all these other people are off, Lucian, UMG, but Diddy still has to pay. She said he could come back and sue and potentially take the money that Diddy had to pay Little Rod, which would suck.
And even if it's going to do that, I wouldn't even wait till the end of the Diddy lawsuit, because I'm going to tell you this. The Diddy lawsuit will not be settled for years, because what's going to happen, I was one of the attorneys that represented plaintiffs suing R. Kelly for different civil claims, right? So I filed the civil complaint in New York in 2018. And then that next year, I want to say, was when the criminal allegations came down. So what's going to happen is Diddy is going to have the criminal allegations come down probably this summer. He's going to be indicted in the federal level. When that happens, all the civil cases will get stayed. Your civil cases get stayed and they will not resume. So Lil Rod ain't going to see a dime until after all of the criminal cases that are going to come down the pipe for Diddy get resolved first. So for that reason, if Lucian, UMG, or anyone else wants to sue, remember they can't sue for defamation, but they could do malicious prosecution. If they're going to do that, they may as well do it now because they've already gotten dismissed. They don't need to wait for Diddy and whatever happens to him. I'd go ahead and get it done now and get my money now and go on and have a hi-ho road, because you want to distance yourself from Diddy and whatever he's going to have going on as soon as possible. You don't want to wait till all this criminal stuff comes down this summer. That's my guess.
It says, what if they don't make a criminal case against Diddy? Do you believe that the feds don't have a case and a grand jury like ready?
Oh no, they have a case. There are too many boxes. There's too much information. There's too much stuff for them to have left the premises with, for them not to charge him with something. They're gonna get something. Absolutely.
What I likened it to was with Lucian, especially because, again, I didn't even know who this man is, and technically I really don't know. The only headlines I always see is Lucian Grange is everybody's sugar daddy. And then he's the president of, UMG, which I thought was Universal Music Group. I had no idea that it was not Universal Music Group until we just read this. But yeah, I felt like Johnny Depp was, extremely well off. And now his name was smeared. And so he went ahead and filed a suit that nobody thought he could win, but he actually won it just to prove a point. When these people have money, that's my biggest fear for Lil Rod. I can't say this enough. I believe Lil Rod. Do I think that some things in this lawsuit were exaggerated? Yes. Do I think that I'm acutely aware that this lawsuit needed to get filed because Lil Rod was scared? I know that for a fact. I knew that before it came out in the lawsuit. I knew that Lil Rod was nervous, and I really hope that he is made whole in this situation. I just don't want the retaliation that's going to come from these very powerful people.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's going to come.
And I think it's going to come both for him as well as Mr. Blackburn. I mean, I'm sure Mr. Blackburn, well, actually, he's already filed documents with the court talking about he's getting it behind the scenes right now, and it's only going to get worse. I could see them accusing him of extortion. That's a common playbook that, they'll accuse you of extortion and these various different things to try to, delegitimize you as an attorney when you're seeking justice, especially in a case like this where he's got like 4 different people that he's representing against the same wealthy, billionaire.
Diddy is already gloating. He posted this: time tells truth. Now, what I found funny was Scrappy's response. He said, live out the lie.
Because let's be very clear, y'all. This doesn't have anything to do. This dismissal has nothing to do with Diddy and his liability.
Simone, he didn't mean to say that. He meant to say outlive the lie, but he said live out the lie.
Bless his heart. That's what happens, y'all, when you don't finish 10th grade. Bless his heart.
Oh my God, I was rolling around when I saw that because I really thought he meant live out the lie. Sorry, you were being serious and I was being foolish. What were you about to say?
Oh no, I'm just reading it. They said Lionel Richie's daughter Sophia is married to Lucian Grain's son Elliot. Oh, interesting.
Rich people marry rich people.
Yeah, they should. I understand. So everything Lil Rod says is true. Yeah, I'm worried for Lil Rod's safety. I think we all know if anything happens to him, I think we know who might be behind that one. Yeah.
I don't know. I am nervous for him. I understand why he would choose Tyrone Blackburn if Tyrone Blackburn is saying, I'm going to take the case. I'm going to put it out there, which almost, guarantees your safety, at least for the, the confines of public opinion. You do know that rich people can still get to you. But if the allegation is Diddy was reaching out to his 8-year-old child and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
I worry for him. I understand if you did not have the money and then you go with Tyrone Blackburn, who is well known to take these very high profile cases. But I have been saying since the beginning, although this was funny, the footnotes were hilarious. I just did not feel like legally it gave him very much wiggle room. because everything was so salacious.
And because it's so specific, because I just want to be clear with you guys, all we're supposed to do when we write these petitions is give enough for the other side to have a general understanding of what they're being accused of. You're not supposed to include very specific details of any sort. So like when he was like, this such and such was pink cocaine and this, part of the reason you don't get super specific, if it doesn't have to deal with elements of the law that you have to prove, is because you begin to lose credibility with things as time proceeds if the specifics are not found to be true. Including that petition can be pulled out like in front of the jury or trial and be like, look at all these different things they were alleging in the beginning and look at how they've now amended it. And we now know that, you know, they didn't have their facts together then and they don't have them together now. And what's most important is you don't want to lose credibility with the judge. You don't have to be accurate all the time, but you want the judge to feel that even if you're making, you know, even if there are things to correct, you are proceeding in good faith and you're not proceeding as a showboat to try and win in the court of public opinion, because those judges who don't like that will punish you in their court.
The Not Show says they dismiss because Rico takes 2 predicate acts. Is that the truth?
I'm not sure about that, but those 3 entities being dismissed doesn't dismiss the RICO. I don't believe that dismissed the RICO accusations, because the RICO accusations included more than just those entities.
And technically, it wasn't like they were involved in a way that it was first person. It was they provided him money to, you know, get the sex workers. They provided him money and they didn't have oversight over the money they provided him.
Correct.
That was the angle.
And ultimately the relationship was actually more so like between Diddy's record company and then Motown and UMG. It was more like a joint venture. So one of the entities, or I think both, were handling distribution of the music. Therefore, their responsibility really didn't come in until after all the songs were produced. So they may have been responsible, for example, for getting the songs onto Spotify or onto radio stations or making sure his concerts were being promoted, things like that. But again, that doesn't have anything to do with the day-to-day allegations that were being made in the civil complaint.
Thank you for the super chat, Denat. Crystal Cole says, if Lucian is clean, which I'm not saying he is, I don't know how this man gets down. You know, in the court of public opinion, Lucian is to Diddy like Oprah is to Gayle. But that's another story. It says, if Lucian is clean, why did Ethiopia jump UMG's ship? What I believe Crystal's talking about is at the very beginning, you know, Ethiopia came out with her own statement, you know, saying that her lawyers were not the same as Universal's. And Tyrone came out and said that she's willing to testify against. And then Lucian's company came back and said, Lucian's attorney came back and said, no, she's not. So
okay.
that's
No, go ahead.
So it says she changed how many times and why she and Lucian were at Diddy's, and why is Lucian trying to get his only allegations dismissed before HSI finishes reviewing all of the recordings. Now, she had said at one point she's never been to Diddy's house. Then the story changed to, well, I was at Diddy's house at a party, but I was only in these rooms. So I think that's what Crystal was talking. Ethiopia, I have 1 degree of separation from Ethiopia.
Okay.
And what I've been told, Ethiopia is very astute. Actually, two people that I know her personally. She's very astute, but she ain't going down for nobody. That's what both people say.
Right.
So can you kind of
yeah. So to answer the first part, how she made very clear her lawyers were not the same as UMG. Part of the reason you want to do that is because it sounds like Blackburn had been communicating with UMG's lawyers about how things would proceed in this case. And in saying those lawyers don't represent me means by talking to them does not mean they are speaking on behalf of me. My lawyer, whoever that person is the only person who can speak on behalf of me. So unless that lawyer said it, don't hold me to whatever you have going on over there with them. The other part of that is she probably distanced herself as well because she is probably paying for her lawyers out of her own pockets. And therefore, those lawyers, of course, are just going to be defending her and protecting her rights and her interests. But she also probably feels like, I actually don't know all that Motown or UMG had going on behind the scenes. I know what I saw, right? But what you're not about to do is wrap me up in any other background foolishness that y'all had going on, especially because y'all over here make me pay my own lawyer fees. So I think that is a component of why she wanted to be very clear that, like, this is where she stays, this is her lane, and what those other people have going on, go talk to them about that. Does that make sense?
No, it does. Suge came out because she's asking if Lucian is clean. Okay, so Suge came out and said that unlike any other company, when Diddy does not actually turn a profit, they still cut him checks. He said that is unheard of in the music industry. So I think that's where people kind of got, along with Little Rod's complaint, that there's something else going on with Lucian, because record labels they might put money up front, but they are looking to recoup that money plus ASAP. So Suge is alleging that something is off in this situation because Diddy's projects do not turn profits and they still cut him like this was $1 million check. And you're working on a yacht at Christmas time, and there's a studio on it. So are you billing UMG for this? People
More
like Diddy spend money.
More than likely what he does is he probably keeps getting checks cut because he bills himself as the label. So to give you an example, if I'm the artist, right? Me as an artist, let's use Vince. What's his name? Vince Staples. Vince Staples complained that he got millions in 2017 and since then has not gotten a single check because the labels have been claiming that they had to recoup. They keep recouping from him from all of his stuff and that he hasn't made any money. Well, who do they recoup it from? I mean, part of the reason that happens is because the expenses are because people like Diddy want to take a private jet to come meet you at the studio and then bill it to your account. So what I'm saying is that Diddy, because he's the artist, but more than that, he's often like listed as like the producer or the label for other artists. He probably keeps getting checks as well because he's an expense that gets reimbursed. So he will, for example, use his own private jet, bill the private jet, even though it's his own, and then bill his time to go down and meet somebody in Miami at the studio and pop in for a day and then bill it to their file. Well, when you have stupid things like that going on over and over and those kind of expenses for these artists, it's no wonder that they have, difficulty recouping. Shoot. That's why with my contracts, when I do contracts for artists, I added in a provision that says any expenses more than $500 must be approved in writing. Otherwise, they are not recoupable. Because, baby, you're not finna fly first class on my client's dime when my client's scrimping and saving to come out with a TikTok video. Get the hell out of here.
So
that's what they do.
From a legal vantage point, if Diddy,
that's what he looked like.
That's Lucian. Born in 1960. Somebody said, how old is he? So let's say that Diddy did use UMG's money to charter this boat. On the boat, you had employees purchasing alleged sex workers and things of that nature. Do you think that Little Rod has a case against Diddy? He can show where he was having to pay the escorts and he was having to, Uber them. Do you think he has a case there?
Here's part of the tricky part of it is at the beginning of all of this, remember, I had been wondering, why didn't Cassie's lawyers take Little Rod's case? Because it was very similar that, he was working for Diddy, blah, blah, blah. And what usually happens is when you have a similar kind of claim, you want to use the lawyers that have already won millions against that person, right? And Cassie's lawyers took, I believe it was the Jane Doe's case. They're also representing one of the other pending plaintiffs. And then I reread the petition. And right there on page 1 or 2, he says, I am an independent contractor. So that means this case doesn't trigger the employment insurance and it doesn't trigger employment protections that he would otherwise get as an employee. Specifically, independent contractors, their ability to prove things like sexual harassment is completely different. Because sexual harassment is something that applies to employees. Think of it this way, like if you worked for Google, but this guy came in and he fixed the fax machines at Google and he kept touching your butt or trying to touch your butt or whatever, it's not Google you'd complain to, it's that guy's company, right? But you guys aren't colleagues. He's an independent contractor. I say that to say, yes, Diddy can be responsible for certain things by asking him to, pay for this and pay for that, because paying for sex workers is a crime. And we do know that. But I'm saying he just doesn't get the same protections that employees get. And that's where it's going to be tricky.
Okay.
They're very, very different, and they're minimal, because the understanding is he could have ended or walked away from the contract at any point if he wanted to. And also, part of the defendant's claims are that even as an independent contractor, right, he was complaining that he didn't get paid whatever he's supposed to. In the industry, if you're an independent contractor, you're supposed to be submitting invoices. They talk about everything in that petition except for invoices. Not once does he ever say, I submitted an invoice because I thought I should have been paid, $30,000 at this point, and they denied it and gave me $1,000. You don't hear any talks of those things. So I just say that to say the crux of his claims against Diddy all fall from basically crimes or employment-related offenses.
Which is harder to prove if you're an independent contractor, is what you're saying.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Cassie was verifiably an employee locked into a 10 album deal.
Correct.
Yeah. I really hope, like, let's say he jumped ship from Tyrone. Do you think he'll still have a viable case?
I don't know that Tyrone is the problem, though. Why I've seen that in the comments. Why do some people think maybe he should jump ship from Tyrone? That'll help me explain better.
Even us laymen's felt like the way that the complaint was written was perfect for YouTube and TikTok and not necessarily for the court of law. So I've heard good things about Tyrone. I don't know anybody who personally knows Tyrone, but I've heard good things about Tyrone in that he takes these cases that a lot of people would not take, and he does it without actually requiring payment up front.
Correct. Well, and let me be clear, that's every lawyer that would take this case. So this is a contingency fee based case. And I'm an injury and accident attorney case, so I do contingencies as well. And so the challenge that he's going to face with trying to get in another attorney is it's not too late. So that's not the issue. But the issue is what you just said there. Because it's contingency fee, if he moves to another lawyer without cause, meaning Tyrone hasn't done anything wrong, he's just like, I didn't like the way you wrote the petition, but he didn't do anything wrong, then you have to have Tyrone and whoever your new lawyer is have to come to an agreement on how they're going to split the fee. And it's unlikely that that's going to happen. And in some states like Texas, if they don't come to that agreement, your first lawyer gets his entire 40% and your next lawyer gets whatever you agree to give them. So if you don't get both of them to get together and come to an agreement, you really screwed, because one thing you don't want is a lawyer who doesn't think they're going to get paid.
What if Tyrone is sanctioned? Is that cause?
Oh yeah, that would be cause for sure. For sure. Because if Tyrone is sanctioned, more than likely Lil Rod will be sanctioned too. So I would get the hell up out of there immediately once that happens. Mm-hmm.
How long do we have you?
I was supposed to be somewhere at 5:00. All right, we can do a few more minutes.
Okay. Well, no. If you have to go, you have to go.
Yes. Okay. Well, I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Simone, for being here. And her website, she's a YouTuber, and it is Girl Is That Legal. So she does these topics as well. Definitely give her a shout out. Let her know that Mims sent you. Swing by. Are you still doing the stuff with Al?
Yes. Actually, we do Court of Public Opinion Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You can see it on my channel, which is Girl Is That Legal, or you can look at Al Reynolds' channel. He posted too. And what that is it's a 30-minute YouTube show where we break down trending legal issues, celebrity legal issues, as well as different celebrity or non-celebrity trending legal topics, giving you the tea, both legal tea and a little bit of like legal infotainment education.
Simone has a mouth on her. That's
I'm very calm today. I'm like,
that's what she's trying not to say.
Behavior.
A lot of times when me and Simone are talking, I'm doing this.
Yeah, that's the norm.
Anyway, thank you so much for being here. Sorry that you're late. But guys, we got some more stuff to talk about.
Appreciate
you.
you.
I'll be on Dr. Heavenly's channel in about 45 minutes. So super excited about that. If you are not still doing what, drop into the live, Simone.
Okay, absolutely, sure will. All right, bye guys. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, guys. So yeah, I had that to announce. I will be on Dr. Heavenly's show live today in about 45 minutes. Before the show goes live, I will drop a link to that. It's gonna be messy because it's Dr. Heavenly and because it's me, and pretty much I can ask her what I want. So that's gonna be dangerous for Heavenly. Yeah, that's gonna be dangerous for Heavenly. Somebody asked me about Diddy being investigated by Child Protective Services, and they sent me this video. So it's a content creator. I think she's on TikTok. I just kind of wanted to review this with you guys because I can't technically fact check this. But let me let you hear what she has to say, and you guys can kind of come up with your own opinions here.
I told you that Child Protective Services, or the Department of Family Services is what they call it, in Miami and Los Angeles, would be seeking to talk to Sean Combs. Now, as we understand,
it says, is this her Patreon? No, we're gonna be live just on her channel in about 45 minutes. Not you get PTSD from the TGIF. So yeah, what I would love for you guys to do is definitely go in and let her know the straight shooters are in the house. And she's with the shits. So as long as you're not like cursing her out, she's fine. So yeah, we're gonna definitely have to pack the house and pack the comment section, letting her know that the straight shooters will be there. What's the Dr. Heavenly chat? Does she have a chat? Yeah, get your drink ready because I'm gonna have to have the 1942. I didn't go buy any new. But anyway, this is what this lady had to say.
Understand it is that they have interviewed the twins. Here's Delilah and Jesse. Remember, I told you that Child Protective Services, or the Department of Family Services is what they call it, in Miami and Los Angeles, would be seeking to talk to Sean Combs. Now, as we understand it, is that they have interviewed the twins. Here's Delilah and Jesse. And they're 17. There are a number of people like they're 18, they're adults. No, they're 17, dressed like this with their brother. I'm sorry, y'all. I have a big brother. He would probably come on here and attest. Ain't no way. There's no way. I might have been somewhere 17 dressed like that.
Now that I agree with. They are dressed very, very adult, but you know, you got Diddy as a dad and your mom is no longer with us. So 17-year-olds, it's probably like 17-year-olds how they want to dress, but a parent typically says no. In this situation, they have a lot of money, and I'm sure Diddy doesn't know everything that they're doing. But in terms of the Child Protective Services, I did not hear her say how she got that information. So that I can't fact check this. Again, this is Candace Kelly. So she has like 1 million views on this. I'm a content creator who supports other content creators. If you like what she's saying, you can always follow her on TikTok. But let's get back to it.
I wasn't. I might would have tried to do it, but he wouldn't have had it. I'm sorry, my brother would not have had it. But here he is posting a picture with him. Now we're going to get to him. Now,
this is the same brother who has an allegation that, you know, he did what he did to that woman who was working on the yacht. So I don't know if, and he always has kind of like a blank stare. Have y'all noticed that? It just is a little bit like, I don't know, maybe a little like dead in the eyes. But I don't think that any Diddy kid would stop. I don't know that a Diddy kid would think that this outfit was wrong. And I just feel bad for the twins because I feel like Kim Porter was their tether to reality. Diddy is not reality. Kim Porter had like an actual home for these kids. I don't know.
What we've learned is that they did talk with Delilah and Jesse, and what some people are saying, and I'm very, very, very hopeful, as having been a fan and supporter of Kim Porter and in their age group, because y'all know I grew up around that, and I did work in television news for over 30 years. So there were times when I was on the red carpet the same time they were. Now, I ain't gonna say that I talked to them or nothing, but there was the same time, and she would at least acknowledge me, where Sean Combs would look at me and realize that I wasn't a hoe, and then he would just give me a dirty look or treat me like I was dead and go over to the white people and go to interviews with them. So in any case, what they're saying is that these girls have gotten old enough and that they are speaking.
But again, it's great that she's credentialed, but she's just not saying, she keeps saying they. So I don't know who they is that have confirmed that Protective Services has interviewed the girls.
And that they were the ones that went to Cassie. Because y'all know I've been saying that either they're complicit or they brainwashed. I don't know, or they are standing up for their mother. They're old enough now. And so it appears that it's quite possible that they are the ones that talked with Cassie and gave her the strength to come forward, because as they've gotten older, they've realized that he has fooled them, that Sean Combs has been being dishonest with them.
I don't know that the twins played a role in Cassie suing their dad. I can't corroborate that either. I mean, I don't know.
And they're old enough now, they've got their own cars, and he don't have nobody raising them, because remember, girls need guidance all the way through. And here they are, these two young girls just on yachts and at parties with beds in them and all this, no chaperone. And what I have learned is that the nanny that they had.
Now, really quickly, if somebody in the chat or in the comments on the replay knows what catalyst would have the Child Protective Services looking into a parent, let me know. I do think that it's not a stretch to think that Child Protective Services looked into Diddy, because these kids are 17 and he had them riding on a plane with a drug mule. You guys remember Brendan Paul was on the plane with the twins going to the Bahamas for spring break. So it's plausible. Again, she just didn't list her sources.
The nanny that was recently fired, or I should say maybe about 2 years ago fired, that was all prompted because the girls started to ask her questions about their mom, because they found it suspicious that when they were 11, they didn't usually spend the night over at Sean Combs' house unless their mother was there, because she knew about the freak offs and all that. We hear that she was writing a book on it. And so apparently they got up and started asking questions about why did they have to leave that night, because their mom was sick and they were there, had been laying in the bed with her while she was sick. 11-year-old girls like to take care of anything, especially their mama. And they thought it to be odd that a car showed up and whisked them away without any clothes or anything. They didn't get a chance to pack an overnight bag or anything like that. They're like, oh, we got clothes at the house for you. And they took.
I'm really intrigued at this point. Who is her source? She's speaking very directly. I just wonder who the source is. As far as I understood it, their nanny / unofficial goddaughter was the one who was massaging Kim. There was a doctor who would come in and give her intravenous IV drips. She was giving Kim massages, and that she was the one who was actually sleeping in the bed with Kim while Kim was sick. It would not be a stretch if Kim were sick to have the girls go to another home that did not contain a sick person. Just my opinion. But I guess maybe I'll reach out to this lady and see, you know, if she can kind of divulge some of her sources. I'm sorry, Mims, but I'm not feeling the lawyer. Lucian fired Ethiopia. Suge's comments on how Diddy is not profitable, but he kept getting UMG money over and over again. A white knighted British dude gave a brother from New York money just because. Really? So that's what we're doing in Trump's America. I'll say this. I like Simone. Simone is an acquired taste, and she knows she's an acquired taste. Like most content creators, and I guess attorneys too, you either love us or you hate us. So she, you know, Simone is with the shit. She understands she's an acquired taste, but I'm inclined to believe Suge when he says that not all Diddy's projects are profitable, and it is strange to have a major company continue to cut you checks. That's something worth looking into. But I'm also a direct person. I'm a straight shooter. And if Tyrone was the one who agreed to allow them to be removed from the lawsuit, I have to go based on what the attorney said. So there was not enough anything to keep them in this lawsuit. Do I think that Lucian's hands are clean? Most people's hands aren't clean, but y'all know how it goes around here. We're fair. And it's looking like Lucian is off the hook as of right now. And I'm not going to lie, guys. I feel like a lot of rich people get off the hook that way. So I'm not surprised. I'm just hoping that Diddy has to pay for what he's allegedly done. And it might be, I hate to say this, but if Little Rod doesn't win, Little Rod still wins, because with this particular lawsuit, more than even the Cassie one, Little Rod exposed Diddy in a way to the public that has cost Diddy so many endorsements. Diddy, which similar to Trump, makes money licensing his name. Now that that name ain't worth shit, nobody is going to say, go ahead, Diddy, and slap your name on this drink. Go ahead, Diddy, and slap your name on this party. Go ahead, Diddy, and slap your name on this, you know, new, I don't know, new artists aren't going to, but you guys get what I'm saying. Diddy's name is shit in the public opinion. And that's in large part to Little Rod and the people who have come forward, like Cassie, Jane Doe, Liza, and I forget the last lady's name. But those who have come forward have basically put the nail in Diddy's public persona coffin. So even if Little Rod doesn't win this case, he's low-key kind of won the case, because the public already believes that this is the person that Diddy is. Not only Carisha will be asking Diddy for slaps. DB says he will never work again, though. That's still a loss when you have a family to take care of. Now, Little Rod, I think they said he was like a musical savant. Is it going to be hard for him to work again in the hip-hop space? Probably. Maybe somebody who really hates Diddy, like 50 Cent, will utilize him. That is what I hope. There's always a hope. There's a lot of people who do not F with Diddy. And there's a lot of people who, you know, are independent artists who could utilize a musical savant. Diddy himself said that in 13 months before things went sour, that this was his best work. And Little Rod produced most of the tracks on this. So I have high hopes for Little Rod. I wholeheartedly believe Little Rod. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that the rest of this lawsuit and these lawsuits with all the victims go off without a hitch. But we live in America, and rich people can fight their way out of just about anything. It sucks, but it's what it is. I was an FC caseworker years ago in New York. If the government politicians push for it, Diddy could easily catch a neglect CPS case. I hope that there's some Twisted Cookie Monster. Can you put, does having your children in the same private plane with your alleged drug mule is that enough for CPS to come in and investigate? And if you're under federal investigation, you do not have to put this in the super chat. Just let us know, since this is your area of expertise. And thank you for the super chat. And again, Crystal's been coming through. Thank you so much for the generous super chats, Crystal. What is Callie saying? And in my opinion, Diddy is a scam artist. They could be using him to commit tax fraud or laundering money, something of that sort. We don't know. We just know that Lucian, the alleged sugar daddy, is not in the court case anymore. Let's see. Sounds like a reach. What? Let me know. It would lead to more charges like neglect. I don't know why you would have your drug mute. Like you can't be allegedly without that stuff for a few days while you take your daughters on vacation. Lucian said, "Stop playing with him." You can get time for child neglect and endangerment. Okay. What did he have? I think it was ecstasy and like what, weed gummies on that plane in that Prada pouch. The world may never know, Trap House, how many. Not Cream Puff. Honeycomb is an addict. Cocaine is a hella drug. Either way, guys, I got to get ready for my Dr. Heavenly video. Remember, I'm going to drop the link probably like 10 minutes before the video. I would love it if you guys could be there watching it live. It's going to be a show. We have some topics that, you know, it's going to be no holds bars with Dr. Heavenly Mims. And I will be having the Don Julio 42. So who knows what's going to pop off. One thing to keep in mind is that when they're on a boat out on the water, different laws apply. I say that because where did his neglect supposedly occur? Busy, once they were at Opa-locka private airport in Miami, and that's where they picked up Brendan Paul, who was going to be on a flight with Diddy and his children to go to the Bahamas for spring break. So that would be firmly in Miami. Yes, if you guys are just coming in, I will be with Dr. Heavenly live in about 25 minutes, 7 p.m. Eastern time, and it's going to be no holds bars. So I got to run. Thank you guys for being here. I don't even think we got to 1,000 likes. Definitely hit that like button on your way out, and I will see you guys very soon on Dr. Heavenly's. Now, y'all, don't be embarrassing me. Dr. Heavenly is with the shits, but don't be embarrassing. Don't be embarrassing me, because we go in. Anyway, see y'all later.